Hi, Darlene.
Hi, Chris. How you doing?
Doing well. How have you been?
Doing well. Do we have anyone else joining us?
Well, I hope.
Okay.
If they're in person. Oh, there
They
we
might
go.
be. Yep, there we are.
We have a quorum, Chris. Oh, we're muted. Oh, no, that's not, okay. Hey, Gene. You can sit down there. All right. Make sure your mics are on. And Chris, can you hear us?
Yes, Aaron, I can hear you. You have us?
All right, well, yeah, we're good. So we got a quorum, so whenever you're ready.
Okay, very good. Let's go ahead and call the Erie Land Bank meeting for December 20th, 2021. Call the meeting to order. And I'd like to start off by seeking approval of the consent agenda and minutes of the November 15th, 2021 meeting.
So moved.
Okay,
Second from Paul.
second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Aaron, we can move on to citizens' comments. Are there any citizens wishing to comment today?
No, we have no citizens today.
Okay, then let's go ahead and move on to approval of the financial report.
All right, Karen.
There's nothing new at this time. I'm still cleaning up the accounts and I'm adding a chart of account numbers to the financial system to better see where everything's going and being able to track it with the budget and everything.
Okay. Is that a matter of just switching systems? Is it all on spreadsheets and you're inputting that, or what? I guess just so I can better understand what that means.
So previously the budget was in an Excel sheet and the financials were in QuickBooks. We're still using QuickBooks. I'm just adding the budget into QuickBooks and then adding chart of account numbers so that you can follow, the budget will follow the expenses and you can see your actual versus your budgeted amounts for every line item.
Okay, so adding chart of accounts to some historical numbers, then the budget moving forward. Okay.
Correct. So currently the QuickBooks is just set up with names versus numbers.
Okay.
For descriptions of an expense or a bank account. Now it'll have a 4 to 6 digit chart of account number.
Okay. Very good. That's a worthy exercise. May not be fun, but it's good it's being done. So thank you. Okay, well, at this point, then I would seek a motion. Financial report.
So moved.
I think I heard Deb second that. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. At this point, let's move on to report of the executive director, and it's the 2021 work plan review. Aaron?
All right, thanks, Chris. So we're moving forward with the 14 properties that we have to work on. We're getting the power disconnected on the ones we've identified, the demolition along with the gas lines removed so we can be prepared for demolition. We're going to hopefully get the bids out by the end of the year so we can get those back before our January meeting. We received the asbestos report back on 708 Payne, so that property is ready to be put out for demolition bids as well now that we have that report for the asbestos abatement on that property. So moving into 2021 with the properties we've identified, the 14 that we have under our control now will be out for bid and we'll be able to move forward with, and then we'll have a better understanding of 1958 Prospect in January for you as well. That's my
Okay.
report.
I'm sorry, Aaron, I didn't catch that. Are you through?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on the work plan? I don't believe I hear any, so if not, we'll go ahead and move on to report of solicitor's report.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have provided, Aaron, there's a pack, there is an update on the ethical guidelines. I put it together, it was part of the package.
You guys get this?
I've gone back through it a couple of times.
Liz, did you get one?
No one's given it. I just gave the whole batch to you. For you to take a look at. I can also scan and email this, or Aaron can make sure to get to everybody so that provide you with some holiday reading. I will acknowledge that what I have done is I have gone through a number of other land banks, ethical guidelines, and conflict policies, and I have merged them to what I think is what would be appropriate for the city of Erie land bank. For example, some of them just aren't appropriate because Erie's not as big as Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, so it really doesn't come into play. But I think we're even, as Liz indicated before, we're way ahead of some of them. I will note also 10.3 talks about nepotism. My entire legal career has been in a family law firm, so I get a little hesitant with regard to nepotism clauses, because if not for nepotism, I don't know where I'd be practicing law right now. But in any event, and again, looking at a city like Erie, we know everybody. A lot of times, that's my cousin, that's my nephew. So we may have to tweak some of these a little bit more. So that's why I wanted to get it, an updated draft to everybody today, so that over the next couple of weeks you can take a look at it. And I would very much welcome some feedback and input, so that in January or February at the latest, this board could have this set in place. I'm going to need some help on statutory language. You'll see just the beginning. It's going to take a little bit of give and take, but we're now, we're in the red zone. We can get this done here and push it across the line here within the next 30, 60 days at very, very longest. And we need to, as the chairman has indicated before, we need to have this in place. We really do. So hopefully this will give you some reading to do. The idea was, if you had a fresh cup of coffee, you could go through this and make note. This is okay. Wait a second, Gene, I don't think that we need this, or something like that. So that was my idea. As a huge fan of Reader's Digest, that's how I try to do all my documentation, is if you can sit down with a cup of coffee and go through this, then it's the right length. So thank you for your patience, and I think that we're really close to having this in place. So with your help and guidance, I think we can get there, so thank you. That is all I have, Aaron, unless you know, the balance of what you and I are gonna talk about is going forward. So, with that, that's really all I have with the, as far as the solicitor's report, other than just to comment on, that how vital, Aaron has been with regard to us receiving favorable decisions on these properties that are set forth in the 2021 work plan. We were in court again this past week on 4 of them, three or four of those, as you'll see in the work plan. I just need to let the board know, Aaron does a tremendous job. He makes a great appearance. The court looks to him, and I look to him for his direct impact and involvement in all these properties. And Aaron is always prepared. He's able to answer the court's questions and inquiries in a calm and direct manner. And quite frankly, largely because of his involvement, we have been as successful as we have been with regard to these properties. And I keep telling him, Aaron, my job is to throw you a belt-high fastball and let you hit it. And he has done that. So with that, I'm done with my solicitor's report for today, and we'll be more than happy to supplement anything that Aaron has with regard to unfinished business as well. Thank you.
That's a question,
Yes, sir.
and I can't find it, and I should have looked it up. We were discussing in detail a property off of 7th and Parade last meeting.
Yes, 405, 407 East 7th Street.
Yeah,
It's on the work plan we had. That was one of the ones that was in court for preliminary objections on Friday. The judge overruled the preliminary objections on Friday, which sets it back to value, or a hearing of value on the property. And the judge has requested an amended appraisal on the property, or amended value of the property as we move forward. So,
what'll happen with a little bit, we had the hearing, so we had, and thank you for bringing that up. When we filed on that originally, there were no preliminary objections, and then it went to the point where they were setting the valuations. Then Mr. Watkins came forward, had filed preliminary objections that he had not notified us, so the judge moved us back to that. We had that hearing this past week. Hearing went in excess of an hour. He had counsel. We went through everything. The judge dismissed preliminary objections. As the homeowner, he now has 30 days to appeal that to the Commonwealth Court. I don't know whether he'll do that or not. Quite frankly, he probably wouldn't have much in the way of standing to argue that. But as Aaron indicated, the next step is to get to valuation. And the court has asked us to give an updated valuation, knowing that this young man has put time and money into this building. So it may very well be a situation that when we have a reappraisal, that it may change our value of 0, because he's been putting time and money into this building after the condemnation. So he's putting his own time and money into a building that he doesn't own anymore.
yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
That's the
If I
problem, you know.
understand, he doesn't own it. Okay,
Right, and he's aware of that, and so so we made assurances to the judge that we would work with this gentleman if he has, for example, he made assertions to the court that he has 2 furnaces in the basement. if that's the case, and part of our problem too is what we had some hesitancy with regard to the judges, we haven't been permitted access to what I'm arguing is our house. So we weren't able to confirm other than what was done outside. A new roof was put on. Does that add value to it? It might very well. If there's furnaces in the house, we would make arrangements to let him, if he's not going to be able to keep this place, Aaron and I have worked with other people. He can certainly take those furnaces, and I don't want him to lose any more than what he's already put in, and the new appraisal may come back where he is entitled to some money because he's increased the value by putting a new metal roof on it and other things that he's asserted to the court that he's done that we just don't know because he won't let us come into the house. So we're going to work with him over the next 30 days to try to accomplish getting our arms around what the situation is and what might be a fair compensation for what he's done. I don't want him throwing good money after bad, and we told him that. So hopefully he's going to work with us over the next 30 days to help accomplish that. And then we've made assurances to the court that we do that and that we're getting updated appraisals if and when we have access to the house. So it's a difficult situation. The court was worried about him being in the house, and he made assurances that the children are not going to be in the house, but that he was asserting that he is living there. So we're working around that issue still.
Okay.
He didn't leave happy, but it wasn't like we pulled the rug out from under him. It's not like this surprised him or snuck up on him or anything like this. And we made repeated assurances that we would work with him.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I just wanted to thank Gene for the work that he did on this interest policy and procedures, conflict of interest policies and procedures. Gene, under number 3, under director, where it says duly appointed by city council, my appointment is from the Erie School District, from the Erie School Board. So I didn't know if that needed to be noted or not. I know that you did talk about dual roles in number 5, so I wasn't sure whether that covers it or not. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention now because I do not think that I will be the liaison come January. It will be up to the board president to appoint somebody to that, to the liaison position. So if there is an elected member of the Erie School Board that wants to serve on this land bank board, then they will have the opportunity to do that. If no one is interested, then I will be reappointed. So I wanted to bring that to your attention now.
Thank you, and that's exactly the type of input that I need, because I'll readily acknowledge I don't know all of the inner workings on how everybody got
Right.
to where they are,
Right.
and with a new, with various new agencies coming in, that's exactly why I'm looking. So look, Aaron, I'll ask Aaron to send out this updated one, and please don't hesitate. You're not going to offend me. Red line things out, make the changes. I want as many eyes on this as possible. So thank you. That's exactly the type of input I'm looking for. Thank you.
I had a quick question as well on the outline here, and this is tremendously helpful. So thank you. This is exactly what we were all hoping to start with. Under procedure in section 8, I just had a question on what's conflict of interest and how we approach that. And typically in the past, we would likely abstain Are you suggesting then that for any reason we feel that we need to abstain, that we should have this in writing before the meeting? That's how I read this.
In these formats, it was that formal. I don't know that it needs to be. I don't know that it needs to be that formal. It's almost. I don't want it to be overly difficult. I think that if you abstain and I'll add language to this, that if you abstain because you suddenly realize at the meeting, hey, look, I've got to step back. I shouldn't be part of this. That you can do that without a formal notification. If it's determined, maybe that hey, look, we would like a detailed explanation as to why the chairman or any board member needed to abstain from that, then I think it would be appropriate to even secure it afterwards.
Okay. And that's my concern, is that, and maybe we can put something in there, to the extent that it's possible, that type of language, because there are times when I'm in this meeting that, maybe you just hear something conversation and that it occurs to you at that point you have to abstain. And I don't want to paint ourselves into the corner where we have to do this, have it prepared ahead of time.
I agree. I absolutely agree. So I'll make that to it, because that's going to happen. That's going to happen more often than people seeing beforehand and being able to put it down in writing, even if it was by email. So I think that having you and any board member being able to orally abstain with a reasonable statement as to their concerns should suffice. So I'll make that change as well.
Thank you. Did we have any more questions or comments for our solicitor?
I just wanted to add that I liked number 11, the prohibition that we don't have any transactions after we leave the land bank board for 6 months, because obviously we would have had prior knowledge of actions that might be taken before they actually occur. And so I think that that's a good. I don't know if anybody else felt that it should be less than 6 months or more than 6 months, but I thought it was a good start.
I actually, when I read that, I thought maybe a year, but I like that it's in there and we don't have to split hairs over this, I guess. I like that it's there too. Okay, if we do not have any other questions or comments for our solicitor, thank you very much for the update and the report. And again, for the guidelines you provided. It's really clears things up, and I think it sets us on a good direction here. So we'll go ahead and move on to unfinished business and new business. So Aaron, back to you.
All right, thanks, Chris. First up is the property disposition. We received a proposal for the purchase of a vacant lot that we have at 525 East 27th Street by a Connie Walker, who lives at 2807 Wayne. Put in an offer to purchase the lot for a garden, a mushroom garden in that area because of its location and tree cover. So that is her offer. She was adamant that I put it in front of you for your discussion, even though I had hesitation because of the garden aspect of it and her not being an adjoining property owner. So, you know, like I said, I did say I would give it, you know, to you guys for your consideration.
And I got a question.
I just wanted to say, I know Connie, she participates in the FSJ Neighborhood Network, farmer's market every week. She's doing some stuff with bees, with honey. So she is Betty Walker's daughter. Betty is the woman that we know who had a small business here over the years and has done living history portrayals. So just in case people don't know who Connie is, I just wanted to put in a plug for her. I don't know anything about growing mushrooms, but I do know that she is at the farmer's market every week.
Aaron, it's not a concern. As you know, up in Central City, we have a number of properties that you toured. I think, I know Debbie's aware. Liz went through it, as well as Kathy. If these folks who get these lots who are saying they put in gardens in, community gardens or whatever, there's some type of language that could be in there 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road. It's not being used for that purpose. Can the land bank or the redevelopment authority take back ownership? Because we have a mess up there in Central City.
Yeah, currently our deeds do not have any restrictions as far as that goes, and that, you know, in talking with the county last week, and I certainly have to get with Gene, you know, we have the agreement with the city and the county and the school district for the 50-50 split on taxes. We have a property under 2020 that has not paid their taxes, a vacant lot, you know, so it's a matter of if they continuously not to pay their taxes, we have no recourse, you know, it would end up going to tax sale at that point. You know, so yeah, there is nothing that we have currently in place if they were to neglect this lot that we would be able to get it back.
Okay. To the rest of the board, what I'm talking about is that we have a number of properties in Central City, that's between 21st, 26th State over the Parade, that were initially given to property owners for the intent of putting in community gardens. We're finding they're left unattended, they're not being used for that purpose, and some are just being left fallow. And there has to be, and now they're blight and junk is being placed there, or weeds are grown, or just everything's being thrown on these properties. If there's something, if these folks 2 or 3 years down the road, or 6 months to a year, whatever, aren't using it for those purposes, what can we do to get them to either use it for it or return ownership back to the land bank and the redevelopment authority? I'm looking at you, Gene.
We certainly could add, we certainly could add proactive language within the deed that this conveyance was based upon assurances that this is how the parcel was going to be used. If it's subsequently determined that it's not being used in that capacity, and you know, the person didn't come back before us to make a request for some type of a change, or if they got behind on taxes, that, you know, I don't know that it would be exactly right, but some type of a reverter that it would, that the conveyance would, with certain actions, it would revert back to the land bank or the redevelopment authority, so that it didn't get to a point where, you know, it was blighted, or a dumping ground, or exactly what you've talked about. So it would almost be like a conditional conveyance, and as long as they kept up with what they've asserted that they're going to do, no problem. But if they got to a point where, you know, they weren't using it in that capacity and it was out of control and taxes weren't being paid, then we would be able to step forward to initiate, I'd have to look at that, some type of reverter action to get it back from that from that person. So I think that there can be language that we could add into that. It's almost like it would be a conditional conveyance based upon their assurances. And again, this is why it's almost like this is why we don't want them to apply like this.
This is Kathy. Can you hear me?
Board to,
Can you hear me? You can. Okay. So you see, can you hear me, Aaron?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just going to offer that it sounds an awful lot like what Paul and what Jean is talking about is what we've seen in the community land trust model. I'm not saying that we need to act like a trust, but it seems like if Jean, if you were going to do a little research and I can see what I can pull up there, that's what community land trusts do is they hold ownership of it's mostly used for affordable housing, but the land trust would hold ownership of the land and have some control over that. And then the purchaser buys the house. And so it makes it a little bit more affordable, but there may be something in that model that we could replicate here that helps us have some level of control over how those properties are maintained and if they're being used correctly. And that's another reason why the land trust holds ownership of the land in some form or fashion is because if it's not being maintained, then they also have the ability to go in and maintain properties as well. Just offering that as a suggestion.
That would be very helpful.
And I would agree with Paul. I know Connie Walker well. She, just to be transparent, she is she's the chair of the new Groundwork Erie Trust. Beyond that, I don't know her from a farming aspect, but I know she's very much involved. But I also echo the concerns that Paul has shared, or at least I think he was sharing. I couldn't hear very well, but I know what he's talking about. That they can, even really good intentions can go pretty badly when it comes to community gardens, or at least has been our experience. So I'm reluctant as well on advancing any more community gardens. Doesn't mean she couldn't use the property for another properly zoned use, but that's all I had to say.
Liz, I have a question for you, since you said that you are familiar with Connie. Is this Connie Walker the same gardener that works with Stephanie Signer? Are you familiar?
Yes.
Okay. I also agree with Kathy and Paul that I'm always reluctant to convey these properties, these side lots for gardens, especially since I know that the only way that we should be gardening on these lots is if we are using raised beds. So and I think I brought that up before, that we cannot be responsible for people growing gardens in this soil when we know that this soil could potentially be have some contaminants in it. But again, that would be a code, I think, a code issue or a zoning issue, and it wouldn't be on the shoulders of the land bank to make that decision. And I think that we've been talking about that quite a bit too. Although I do look at this proposal though differently, and that's because Stephanie Signer, who I mentioned, is the mobile educator for the Erie School District, and she's our garden facilitator. And I think she's been working with Kathy quite a bit. And this property is pretty close to Woodrow Wilson Middle School. So it could potentially be a very viable educational project, which seems to be what she's proposing. So I'm more inclined to in this case think that this could almost be an entrepreneurial move for her as well. And I don't want to I guess I don't want to go in the block her ability to do that. She works very closely, like I said, with Stephanie Signer, who owns Wildfield Farms on East 7th Street. So Kathy, do you have any other thoughts on that?
I don't. I mean, Steph does a wonderful job with her garden. It's also, I think it's 2 or 3 lots that she owns adjacent to her house, which helps a lot. I too, I think Connie does I think she does wonderful work, and this could be an educational opportunity. It's just, we've already had one urban farmer fail in Erie, and we had high hopes for that, and I don't know, I'm a little torn on this one. It's not easy work. It's not gonna be an easy decision. And just to point out, zoning and code would not check the soil for suitability for farming. That would not be a role that they played, so it would be up to the property owner.
It'd be up to the property owner.
Correct.
And we talked about this before, do we have an obligation to say that then? If we approve it for gardening? And I think we've had this conversation before, and that we don't have any responsibility.
So Darlene, I'll just jump in here. I mean, I feel as if regardless of how solid the applicant is and how well we may know this person, we're condoning this. I mean, when we approve these types of requests, we're saying that we're okay, even though we end up saying we're take it case by case. I don't like this type of request, this model that folks are using. There can be an exception to every request, and she may be, I personally don't know her, but this might be a great one to approve. But when we approve these, there's somebody out there watching right now that thinks, well, I'm going to request the same thing. And we either need to reach a point where we just say we are not going to entertain requests for community gardens, or we have some kind of disclaimer that shields us from, tries to shield us from the liability of suggesting that ground is safe. I'm very uncomfortable with these on multiple fronts. And it seems like we kick the can down the road each month or each time we see one of these, and we say, well, we'll address this further at some point. And we just never, and I'm not faulting anybody on here. It's just one of those things where we say, well, we really don't like it, but yet we'll go with this one. I just don't know if we just say we're not going to be open to community gardens unless it's, really knocks our socks off, or we just, and it's the same problem. We don't have a good answer for this, but I don't want to keep doing this either. And I really don't. And again, it's in a way we are condoning, or we're suggesting that is good ground to garden, and we have no idea. And there could be high levels of contaminants there, and people could look back and say, well, the land bank approved it for this, and there you go. And I don't like being in this position.
Right.
Well, and then too, Chris, with that, we've had requests to develop property that may not be in accordance with the zoning code. And we've left it to the property owner, the purchaser, to determine whether or not they can actually do that. So, and you're right, because we are a quasi-governmental body, it appears that the city has signed off on the use. And it puts us in a really precarious position when that happens. And we've got 3 people on this board that at some, depending on the hats they wear, represent the city. So it's, yeah, I can see where this is a very slippery slope for us to be in.
And just generally speaking, I don't like to set people up for failure. And we had a conversation a few months ago, somebody who said they were going to start a business and they were going to go out and get a loan of a significant amount. And I think we had a conversation about, how much due diligence do we insist on the front end? And that may not technically be under our authority or our dominion to do that, but do we have an obligation to do that? Do we have an obligation to say, I'd like to see a financing commitment, or I'd like to see further due diligence before we say yes? Because we're not doing them a favor. We're not doing their neighbors a favor. And if we just have a revolving door, it's not good. So I'm just repeating what we've all already been saying, but I don't know how we tighten this up, and I don't want to tie your hands, Aaron. I don't want to make this more difficult than it has to be, but we can't just have these coming through here and hoping that it works out. We've got to tighten this up somehow without being too overly restrictive.
I have a question. When this property was acquired, why was it acquired and what was the hope for it? It seems to me that's a question you should be asking. If you acquired this where, at a tax sale or something, or you demolished something there, shouldn't there have been forethought about what's next? Because if this person doesn't get it, what happens to it? I mean, it seems to me that there's a lot of questions here, you know, I can't remember which meetings I've been at, but there have been some where it's like, we'll have the person come in and make a presentation. I guess the only reason I spoke up is because somebody said, well, I don't know who this person is. And I'm like, well, I know who this person is. It just seems like.
Well, Liz, my main apprehension here.
Somebody, but if somebody is following the rules as they're set up now and just writes up a piece of paper, it sort of seems like unfair to say, this is where we're drawing the line, because we don't want that to be a mess, whereas you've done it before. So where did this property come from? What were your hopes and aspirations for this? And what happens to the people who previously got this approval? I guess I'm asking all this because it also sounds like there should be a time where City Council re-examines its ordinance on urban farming, because we know that there have been issues. So I don't know. I guess if I were in charge of the world, I would say, form a subcommittee, deal with the larger issue, and then come back. But I don't know when mushrooms have to get planted for the next season. Again, I know nothing about mushrooms, except I just bought some at the store yesterday. I'd love to buy some at the farmer's market.
So Liz, you know, my main objection is just the unknown of that soil. I mean, I'm not doubting this person. I'm not suggesting that she is or isn't going to do it. What I'm saying is it makes it look as if we are conveying a clean piece of ground as if we already know that it is. And I don't like being in that position. And so I think we need to figure this out. You know, do we either not take these types of requests moving forward, or do we just disclose that, you know, the ground has not been tested, that this is, you know, that you know this going in to this, that there hasn't been soil bearings or anything to that extent. That's all. I think when we approve this, it's making it look as if we're also saying that ground is suitable, and we have no idea.
I'm not saying that you should approve this. I'm just asking, what's the context? Have previous lots been approved? And since the land bank owns this, why did you take it? Anybody know why you got it and didn't just leave it for somebody else? Like, what's the history of this particular lot is what I'm asking.
Right. And I just to answer that, I believe it was a blighted property acquisition financed through the land bank, with the hope that it would be conveyed to a neighboring property owner.
At the very least, I guess this is a question for our solicitor. At the very least, moving forward, is there a way that we can give a disclaimer or some sort of statement attached to this saying that, you know, that the ground has not been tested? We have no idea what's there in the soil. Something to that extent.
You know, as we've had this discussion, that's exactly what I've been doing, is taking notes here. We can integrate that into the deed, and indicate that there's no representations as to the viability of the soils to accommodate, you know, any community garden, and in particular a mushroom garden. There's no representations that your intended use is consistent with the zoning for that parcel, There's been no testing done. You're buying the parcel as is. It's your responsibility to make sure that it meets your intended purpose going forward, and the City of Erie Land Bank is making no assurances. That is completely upon the buyer, and I think that's fair and reasonable for us to make that type of a representation or assurance, because we acquired this property, and as Aaron had stated, had hoped that an adjoining property owner would buy it and integrate it into their parcel. This woman happens to be 2 blocks away. That doesn't disqualify for her from doing it, but we also need to protect ourselves going forward if she plants things there that that aren't appropriate or healthy or anything like that. So there certainly is language that we can add to that places the burden squarely upon the buyer, and I think that's appropriate, and protects the City of Erie Land Bank as well. I think that's appropriate.
So at a minimum, if we can establish that going forward, and I'm not suggesting we hold this up today because it wouldn't be fair to her, but I really don't want to approve any more of these until we at least clear that minimal level of potential liability, at least create a disclosure statement, environmental questionnaire, something, I don't know, that we don't have to overcomplicate it, but that moving forward. And then it's the larger question of, is it the type of activity or project we even want to support? But that's, to me, that's secondary to the suggestion that we're putting out there that the ground is okay, and we need to stop doing that. So at least we can clear that first hurdle, and then we can decide if we want to encourage this type of community farming.
And I want to go back to my initial comments because, having looked at many of the gardens in my area over the years, there's one that has been continually used as a community garden and maintained in upkeep, and that's the one by Sisters of St. Joseph's on 22nd Street, the northwest corner. All the rest of them, they have become blighted and just a mess. And so moving forward, I agree with Kathy and Mr. Groner that we really need to take a look at these proposals on gardens, because the mushrooms will be fine, and that's good, but who knows what happens a year or two down the road? What will that that piece of property look like? I think you had one on East A Street. I'm trying to think. There was one because they requested water for a piece of property, and they were going to plant a community garden. Never did anything with it. And I remember going over A Street, and there's tires on it and weeds and everything else. So I don't know.
I'm more than happy to start working on that language to integrate in the deed, both the protection for I'll just say under a right of reverter to take the parcel back if it's determined that, hey, look, they did, they tried to do a garden one year and then they didn't do it the next year, and all of a sudden now city crews are going out there. It's a location for junk and other deposit, and also language to say, hey, look, you're buying it as is. We're making no assurances that it meets, it meets certain guidelines for growing of vegetables or anything like that. That's completely upon you to do your due diligence to make sure that it meets with that intended use going forward.
Thank you, Gene. So I don't intend to oppose this today, but any new ones coming in, until we have a disclaimer and we have that language, I just want to say it publicly, I would vote against from this day forward until we have that a little more clear direction and a disclaimer attached to this. So I don't know if any more discussion on this specific request. To Liz's point, I don't want to hold this person up. It's not fair to them that we just decide today that we're going to create
Right.
these barriers or these safeguards, but moving forward, we need it in place before I would be comfortable approving any more of these.
And Chris, I would echo that sentiment, that I think that that's a very, very viable point that we need to make, as a decision we need to make as a board. We really should not be. And Kathy's point as well, to the fact that it's not an adjacent property owner, that it's not a good idea in my mind to convey a property that's not adjacent to the property owner for a community garden in the future either. So that'd be something else I'd like to have us consider in the future.
Okay. So all of that being said, Aaron, would you, you're looking for us to make a motion here for this specific request?
Yes.
So could I get a motion to approve the purchase request of 525 East 27th Street by Ms. Walker?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you. Aaron, on to judicial tax sale.
All right, so just an update, I wanted to provide you the list of the 18 properties that we successfully optioned off the judicial tax sale list. So, you know, as you're aware, we started with 24, with ones being removed, people filing bankruptcy and paying them off. You know, we ended up with 18. So that is our final list. We've started to evaluate them and look at what the possible options for them are moving forward. Quite a few of them do have the ability, it looks, to be rehabilitated or offered out for developer agreements. So Gene's working on his part of it, him and his team, as far as getting the titles and all that prepared. And, you know, we're looking at having the inspectors go out and put together, you know, rehabilitation options on the property. So hopefully we'll have those February or March for the board to have a better understanding on. So just an update there. And then the resolution was supposed to be under the 2022 meeting schedule, so there is no resolution for those. Any questions?
Okay. I have none. Any other questions or comments?
Chris, I'd just like to say to everyone, it's been an honor and a privilege to work with all of you. And I wish you the best moving forward. I think you are doing great work. And I think that the members that we have on this board right now have really done an excellent job. And so you have my support and you have my praise. And I hope I see you around sometime.
Well, Darlene, thank you. And it's been a pleasure working with you here. And we're going to definitely miss your insight, your advice, and your guidance. And so, again, you've been a tremendous help with us moving forward. And as we get our sea legs here, in some ways, we're still doing that, but much appreciated what you've been able to contribute to the cause. So, thank you.
Thanks. But the last thing on the agenda is the meeting schedule for 2022, which we have a resolution on.
The
The board to
approval
approve.
for.
Yes, so it follows the third Monday of every month, with the exception of January, with the third Monday following on Martin Luther King. I have shifted that one to the fourth Monday, which would be January 24th.
I'm sorry, Aaron, I didn't hear that. Did you need us to approve this?
Yes, there's a resolution for approval on that.
Can I get a motion to approve the 2022 meeting schedule?
So move.
Can I get a second?
Deb, second.
Oh, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right.
Any other business, Aaron?
No, that is all I have for today, Chris.
Okay. Well, I'd like to just thank everyone for all that you have contributed to this through the year, and I think we've made some pretty good progress this year. And I want to thank Aaron for the tremendous work he's doing, and Gene, thank you for all you've done for us. You're really helping us chart a good course here, and I think 2022 is going to be a good year with some continued success. And so I just wanted to say that. I wish everybody very happy holiday break, and look forward to attacking the new year together here. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy holidays. Everyone be safe.
Okay. And with that, we adjourn. Thank you, everyone.